Hello, everybody. It's fantastic to see you all. Welcome to Two Old Farts. And believe me, they are very old and they're very fatty. And they're going to make some noise now. Are you ready? Come on, let's do it. Hello, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Come on.
Good afternoon from my side. Good afternoon. Oh, good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, morning.
Oh, that's
Good
right.
morning
He's still yesterday.
I'm still,
Yes,
I'm still yesterday here. You guys are already
Still
tomorrow.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Actually,
We're back again in South Africa with our favorite DJ, Rob Vega.
No, the world voice guy. Actually,
Yeah,
that's his.
yeah. I was going to get to that, but you know the brain doesn't work too quickly. So I have to, bit by bit. Before we came on air, everybody was saying, "Oh, you know, we'll just do our normal dinner party thing," and of course, I just agreed with that. But I'm actually going to throw a spanner in the proverbial works here because last time, well, the very first time you two guys spoke, there, Stephen and Mr. Vega, they had a sort of a New York City love-in.
Wow.
You know, and it went on.
By the
for
way,
so long.
did you get your check from New York? Because mine came. Did you send you your check?
Yeah.
You know, for promoting New York there. I'll take that as a yes with that evil smile on your face.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So,
and when we left off last time, we were talking about sports, and I'm sure everybody that was listening to the
fell asleep
to the first two podcasts that we did. We also had some guests that kept sort of drifting in and out of part two when we were talking to Mr. Vega. I understand that one of your guests has been extremely busy today because they've been throwing out one prime minister and letting in another. But I'm sure she'll need a bit of a rest. But anyway, enough of this. I'm going to start this off, right? And I'm going to ask you both some questions.
So apparently David's prepared for this interview.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start thinking.
Look, you got to start thinking. Okay, guys, look, they're good. All these. I'll ask Mr. Vega, and then we'll go to Stephen.
Sure.
They're going to be questions, but they require very short answers.
Have you met us?
Yeah, but of course the longer expanded.
I think you're in the wrong place, Dave.
Yeah.
Really.
Anyway, listen, it's like this, right? If somebody said to you, for example, can you explain why you like bananas, right? So you'd say, okay, the banana is tasty, number one. It's got tasty, funky flavor, number one. Number two, it's yellow, and number three, it's curved in shape, right? That's it. End of question.
Okay.
So we're going to start off then. I'm going to start off then with Mr. Vega. We're going to ask him for his three favorite sports. Rob, and to keep those in as short as answers as possible.
Three favorite sports.
Three favorite sports.
I'm ready. Do you want them?
Yes, go on, off you go.
All right. Well, my favorites. Actually, it's not as easy as I thought it'd be. Probably tennis. Love tennis. Number
one. Why?
Because
ladies in short skirts.
Not anymore.
Look, that's the cross you bear. Thanks for that image. No, it's something I played at school, and it was the thing I was pretty much the best at in terms of the things I could do.
Very cool.
I come from a family of almost national tennis playing people, and yeah, it's good fun. I enjoy it. It's good fun. I mean, I love a lot of sports. So
okay, well, you're up to that.
All right, tennis it is. Okay,
you got to answer your top three. So you got number two now.
Tennis. Second one. I'm going to say cricket.
Okay.
It's rugby or cricket, but I'm going to go with cricket. Yeah.
And why cricket? Very short answer.
Again, it's because I played a lot of that at sport. I think it also depends whether you played it, and I did. I played those. Well, not so much rugby, but I played tennis and cricket a lot, and I enjoyed cricket. I was a pretty good bowler, not bad. Pretty much sucked at batting.
Just so you know, the American audience won't have a clue when you say bowler. They're going to think of bowling now.
Baseball.
No, but yeah, they don't understand any of that. Just FYI.
I mean,
but hang on a second, Dave. Steve, do you really think so? I mean, I brought up the subject of cricket with a few people, and I'm going to defend my American friends. They weren't that knowledgeable, but they kind of knew that there was only two bases. Not
Well, the
one.
thing
They
is
may,
that-
they know
whatever
that
it is.
because I think they see it on
Yeah.
television or CNN by mistake. I don't think they know by mistake. I don't think they know what cricket is to save their
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I truly
and of
believe
course,
that.
and of course, we do know that your googlies are famous even in the northern hemisphere and in the Americas. So we'll leave
Googlies.
that. So yeah, so you're very famous googlies. So we've got number one.
Okay, so
We got number
okay,
one tennis. We got number two cricket. Well,
okay. I haven't.
and
I'm
number
still going to come
three,
back to the cricket thing with Americans. I think they're smarter than you think you are.
we'll come back to that.
Hmm.
We'll come back to that. And number three then would be rugby.
Yes, I love rugby.
Okay,
Rugby's a great sport. I wish I
Okay.
didn't, because it tears
It's
out
pain.
my heart,
Yeah.
but I enjoy it. Hmm.
Okay, well, we'll come back to
do.
all of those. Now, Stephen,
Okay.
you're over to you. Your top three favorite sports, which if it's possible to have a very short New York answer to those
A New York
questions,
minute.
please.
All
The
right,
New
my
York
top
minute.
and top three sports. So not in any particular order. Tiddlywinks, curling. No. Let's see. It's a really good sport. Yeah, I know, right? I like basketball, hockey, and Formula One.
Okay, right. Well, and any particular reasons why?
Formula One is all strategy, even though people think it's people driving around in a car going, you know, like NASCAR,
Yeah.
keep making lefts because Formula One, they all make rights. But you really like that one, don't you? What do you want to do in NASCAR? Make a left.
Kind of
And in
true.
Formula One, you make rights. So,
Yeah.
and lefts sometimes, depending on the track.
Mm.
So Formula One, I like because
Yeah.
it's very intense. It's very strategic. And it is the best driver, the best this. You have to think through everything. Basketball,
Okay.
I like. It's
Well-
just because it's fast paced. And hockey, if you will, I like. Once again, it's fast paced and I enjoy it. I mean, football, US football is very nice. UK football is very nice. UK football is like they're all there. But like if someone said, what do you want to watch today? That'll keep me engaged for the whole, whether it's hour or 3 hours. Formula One's probably the first thing I would jump to. Like every
Okay.
Sunday here in the States, that's what I watch.
Okay.
Before I watch anything else.
Well, I wasn't going to answer any of the questions, but if I will answer one. My favorite sport is F1, and keeping to my let's give it a short answer. I had it down as glamour, money, and petrol, not necessarily in that order. So that's the three reasons why I liked it. Or gasoline, as it would be in the US. Now,
petrol.
okay.
We're not
Yeah.
that stupid. Well,
Yeah.
Well, you like the taste of it? What is
Yeah,
that?
love it.
What do you mean?
Love it. Yeah, and the smell
Okay.
of it. And the smell of it. Okay, now we're going back down to South Africa now. Yeah, Rob, you're back on it, mate. Your three sports
I'm
that
sorry,
you
I seem to have
absolutely
some
that you
interruption here, but anyway.
absolutely hate. Your three things.
Sports I hate.
You hate. Yeah.
wow.
Or dislike the most. Let's be more political.
What sports do I hate?
Yeah.
What sports do I hate? Hate's a strong word. It's like, oh,
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Well,
okay, curling.
yeah,
curling.
number one, you'd
Yeah,
avoid
curling.
that curling. Yeah.
Curling, really? The excitement of the guy with a broom
Oh, it's
on the
thrilling.
ice?
Yeah, fantastic. But hate, I don't hate it. I dislike
Okay,
it.
well,
I wouldn't. I just
will
wouldn't
remove
watch it.
Okay, all right. So the three
I wouldn't
sports that
watch
you
it.
wouldn't
I wouldn't
watch.
waste my time watching it.
So number one is curling. Don't waste your time to watch that.
Crikey. Shall I stick with one country and say rowing? No, I don't mind rowing. Rowing's okay. I don't mind rowing.
Yeah.
It's a little boring, but I don't mind it. What else do I not like? Swimming. Strangely, I find it a bit pointless. I do.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
like, I think if you're in the pool and you're doing it, great. But wow. Woo,
Yeah.
great. No. You
Bit
see,
like
I'll
sex,
tell you-
really.
I beg your pardon?
It's just a bit like sex. But David's
Where
age,
did we
it's
get? Where did we get from
everything's a bit
swimming to
Sex.
Well, you said it's okay when you're doing it yourself, but when you're anyway.
But
Anyway,
I'm
Who
Hey,
is
now.
this guy? Who is
Yeah,
this guy?
this-
What is
this
this?
is
What is
like-
this?
What
is
they
this?
put him on different meds, and that's why. So listen, you weren't on the show a couple of weeks ago where he literally, and you can't miss it because it says 2 old farts making noises and behind me. He's like,
Yeah.
welcome to 2 old. I'm like, seriously, it's right behind me. You can't choose. So we just put up
Yeah,
with it. He
it's
dribbles a
right
lot,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, okay. But so back up to Stephen then. So you're
Yes.
the three
Hang on, I'm giving you my
sports
third
that-
one.
He's on his
You
third one
did-
still.
you-
Wait.
Well, you were
No, he
talking
didn't do
about.
it.
He was talking about swimming, I thought.
No. You
Swimming.
said
Well, we had swimming. We had
Yeah.
curling. Did we have another
Yeah.
one? Did we have another one?
Rowing.
Swimming, curling, rowing. You said
And
kind of, but
All
then
right,
you took
fine.
rowing
For
away.
the sake of brevity, let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean,
great.
I'm the one with short-term memory
Fine.
loss. It shouldn't,
Oh.
you should be able to remember this. I mean,
And strange connotations between swimming and activities.
Sex.
So,
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
We can say sex on our podcast, by the way, just
Yeah.
so you know, you're aware.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I know, but I like
Well,
the wonder.
Oh, so
I don't know,
it's
the
kind
discovery.
of like when
Could
we
it be
were
referring to?
12.
Yeah.
It's like the wonder of it, So
Stephen,
Yes.
the three sports that you would least like to watch if you were locked in a room somewhere. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Mental masturbation. No. Let's do sports. What I find out. Here's what's really funny. As much as I make fun of curling, I will watch it because I think it's hysterical. So I can't. That's not the worst sport to watch. Unfortunately, tennis is. Golf, because I play it and I don't get why I'm going to watch it on television for 17 hours.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's like,
I hear
oh,
you.
look,
Yeah.
the guy's hitting a ball better than but I don't need to watch it. And then what would be the third one and this is not going to go over the America's Cup. Like, I don't get
Yeah.
why I'm going to watch it's very, very
know.
cool. And I understand there's tacticians but I just don't, I'm like, okay, you're sailing a boat. Okay. Got it. Why is that a sport? I mean, I know I just I don't know why lots of things are a sport. So that's it. I'm going to probably be kicked out of the country. I'll be moving to South Africa shortly. Please send
That's
your
fine.
cards and
Come
letters.
watch some rugby. Come play some rugby. Yeah.
I could do that.
Well, that's very interesting and very so that's the top half of what I was going to ask you. Now we get to the interesting stuff. So we're going now to favorite foods. 3 favorite foods, and then 3 foods we've come to that you
blonde, brunette, and redhead. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yep.
that's not a food group. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, for some people it is.
Okay,
Well, this is
apparently I have no
Folks,
idea.
this is called old farts for a reason. Yes,
That's
anyway,
right.
moving on.
There you go. You go
Well, at least we're not talking
Please.
about New York anyway. So
we will be, pal.
Yeah.
Every
Good
restaurant I'm
time.
going to mention with my favorite food will be in New York.
Still circle back.
That's
Yeah.
right. Don't worry about
All
that.
roads and foods lead to New York. So
New York, there you go.
so Mr. Vega, your 3 favorite foods.
Here's a weird thing. It sometimes depends who's making it, but because some foods, it depends in whose hands they are. They can be.
Are
out
we
of my
back to the
favorite,
blondes, the redheads, and the brunettes?
Pretty
again? Is
much.
that-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
we
all
are.
Okay, so all right, let's get to it. Well, I'm not a vegetarian, I'm sorry to say, or a vegan. So
Thank
I like my meat. So there's a thing we have. No, not at all. We have it's global. In fact, my wife got the best recipe ever on some show in the States. Oxtail. Love oxtail. Big fan of oxtail. Do you know what that is? Yes, you do.
Yes. Well,
I
the ox knows a
love
lot
it.
about it. Yeah.
Yes, love oxtail. Big time, big time.
Are you
my mum-
are you eating that sliced and cold, or are you having that in soup?
What?
Yeah, they make
What?
sort of a salami out of it.
What? No, it's in a pot and it stews for 8 hours and it marinates and it falls off the bone. And my wife comes from an Afrikaans family who claim that they have the best recipes, which some of them are not bad. Then when we lived in the States for a couple of years, she saw some recipe from some chap. I think it was Dine Drivers and Guy Fieri's show. Was that show?
Oh, yeah.
And-
The guy that the drive. I know the show you're talking about.
I never can get to
channel
3
surfed.
things, but you know the
Yep.
guy, Guy Fieri. Yeah, him.
Yep.
And he stopped at this place in Texas. And there was a guy making oxtail, and she went, right, I'm writing this down. And it was the most fantastic recipe. So that's why I know it is a global thing. And it was brilliant. So I love my oxtail. What else do I like? God, food is a tricky thing, hey?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
it's
it
subjective.
could be
Wow.
it could also
Depends
be
on your mood, doesn't it?
yeah, but it could
Depends
also
on
be
your mood.
it could also be a country thing. You got to say, well,
I
love
like
eating-
sushi. I like
Okay.
sushi.
Yeah,
Big fan of
yeah.
sushi. I love my sushi.
Yeah, that's
And-
something I don't understand why people want to eat
Oh,
dolphin.
that's okay.
But there you go.
They got plenty of it in New York, so never come to New York.
That's
Well,
right. We
fine.
got every other corner. That and a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Now, no, Dunkin' Donuts now instead of Starbucks.
Oh my goodness. Sushi I love. And what else? Yeah, I'm going to be pizza. I'm going to go with pizza.
Okay.
But then it depends
On the pizza. Gotta be a New York
depends on
pie.
the pizza. Depends
be a
what
New York pie.
city you're in. You see.
Okay, so you're not
And
a
I'm going to
lover of.
side with. Guess who
Yeah.
I'm going to side with on the pizza debate?
New York.
Yeah, well, I
Cool.
wasn't even going to go.
What
I
is
wasn't
that?
even
That
going.
is a pie. What is that?
Yeah,
Deep
like a-
dish my
Here's-
ass.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
Chicago,
everybody.
though. Pussies in Chicago, they don't have a clue about New York. So here's the best part about pizza. So when we were in
Oh,
New York
Stephen,
with the
are
family,
we back onto you now? Are we is
Yes.
this
well, no,
one
no,
of
I
yours?
wanted to
He's
say,
up.
I just want to say one thing about pizza for
Okay.
Rob.
For-
So when I was with the family, we were all in New York, and I said, let's go grab a pie. You know, one's from Singapore, the other's born in Texas. They don't have a clue. They're looking at me like we're gonna go get a pie, like we're gonna go to Junior's and get like, like a cheesecake, or I'm like a pie.
Oh,
That's
dear.
in New York,
Yeah.
that's a pizza. And then you got to fold it, and everyone eats it like, like Blasio, the old mayor, was eating with a knife. And forget that. You eat it with your hands and you fold it. You got to be. It's a thing, and people don't get
Yes.
that, which is very funny.
Yes.
It's very New York. So, and then we
Okay.
get another $1 because you mentioned the
But
name.
you see,
Yeah,
Steve
Cuisine
raises
is
a good
container,
point.
Cuisine.
Steve
Yes.
raises a good point because
I raise-
that
there you
is
go.
why it has to be. You can't have these fat, thick things. You can't fold them.
That's
How
right.
do you do that? That's the important. That's exactly why. That's why it has to be.
Okay.
So you can.
The thin crust.
Messier the better.
Yeah. Okay, Stephen,
Yes.
we're back to
Yeah.
you. Your 3 favorite foods. They could also be, can also be like I like Greek or like Italian or like Chinese. If you can't.
When I
pick
was single,
any-
I did. My wife would get mad now if I said
Okay.
that. Anyway,
Okay.
but thank you. I'm here till Thursday. Tip your wait staff. So I just want to see if I can make both his spit out his water. That's what I'm here for. So my favorite. See, my wife's like a world famous chef, so everything she cooks is just drop dead. Like everybody that like
Well,
she
you're
does
still-
catering, whatever. It's
you're
just
still-
it's
you're-
all
you're-
Singaporean and whatever. But I know
you're
I got to come up with food. Pizza, yes, in New York, pretty much only. The only pizzas to have in New York. And then more of a group, like Chinese or any Asian type of cuisine, whether it's Taiwanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, I love anything
Very
Asian.
nice.
Like
Yeah.
when they go, what do you want to do for dinner? I'm just like Asian. I don't care, just wherever, whether it's in New York or it could be in like even here in Texas, there's like a little Asian community and they have some wonderful, like anything Asian, like Asian any day of the week. And then, wow, what other food? They have steakhouses and all that. That's overrated. If it's a good buffet, like almost like a 5-star buffet, I'll do that because I get to pick a little bit of everything.
Okay, right. Well, that's interesting. And
See,
I-
you see, we got back to New York in that discussion. Did you see that? Did you see what we
obviously, I
Got
mean,
back to New York.
the ka-ching noise is going off. That's
Listen,
Steve.
The
Steve's
new
sponsor-
mayor called us and said, every time you mention New York, I'm giving you guys $1. So
Yeah.
I've got to get as many plugs for New York in,
Okay.
or I can do the old New York Big Apple Ed Koch thing. I love New York. And nobody really wants that, I don't think, on the show. Plus, we don't know how to edit our videos, so I can't put it in.
Exactly. So we're going to go now to the last thing in this section. It's the 3 least favorite foods. It could also be, as Steve sort of bunched all these things together and said, Asian, Greek, Italian, or whatever. There may be something where. So your 3 least favorite foods, Mr. Vega.
I just want to say, just going back to good foods, I like Indian food as well. Just want to throw that.
Yes, that's very good.
I
But I
forgot about
lump that
Indian
in with
food. I
Asian.
love.
Yeah.
Asian, Indian. I know it's same, but it's different. Yeah,
it's different, but I lump
them
together just because it's really that good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Listen, I have a mental picture of that as well. We don't want to go down that road. But so anyway, the 3 least favorite, things that you say, I'll go and get a burger as opposed to eating that.
I'm not a massive vegetarian fan. I got to tell you, it's got to have something to do with meat in it somewhere.
Okay, so just generally then
vegetarian stuff. Yeah. But again, I mean, Steve makes the point because he said, his wife cooks and everything is great. So I bet you if she was making it, well, I've got my own little chef magnifique here as well. It depends if they were making it, it would probably be good. So when you say, what is your least favorite food? In the hands of an idiot, it can be anything. So you see, you've got to be more specific there, Dave. But I'm not going to rush out and get a veggie burger. That's a fact. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Well, I'll accept that then, because I know you're struggling a bit with that one.
Although, let me think of other foods. There are some strange South American places that have some strange things, which like Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones on a quest, and the eyeballs pop out of the soup. That they've got some very weird stuff over there.
Guinea pig.
There's some very odd stuff down, but there's some good stuff too. Argentinian beef and something. I mean, there's good stuff down there.
Yeah.
And what else don't I like? Anything with banana in it. I hate bananas.
Really?
Yeah, constantly. No. Since Dave brought up bananas earlier, you reminded me. This is why I like bananas. This is why I don't like bananas. No.
Yeah. Well, it was just
bananas,
it was just
mushrooms, anything like that.
It sounds dirty. When you two say bananas, just to let you know, it sounds dirty. I'm just letting you know in advance.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is an age-related problem that Stephen has.
It could be a Freudian thing too. I don't know. It's like cigars, scotch.
Yeah.
Those are by the way, cigars and scotch, are they a food group? Because those are my favorite foods. Cigars and scotch.
Well, they are for some people, but most of them are in therapy at the moment. But okay, so your three, Stephen, your three least favorite.
I don't think we're answering too well, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Least favorite foods.
You know, we had that doctor on a couple weeks ago, and she was wonderful. And if she's listening to this, she's probably saying, I can never go back on this. She's making notes going, I'll never go back on. These guys are just nuts. So they need lots of.
You've got to get case studies. We are. That's what it is.
Three least favorite foods. I don't think I have a something I won't try, because I've traveled all over the world for work. And so sometimes I would say, don't tell me what I'm eating. And then after they would tell me, I'm like, this is disgusting, but I would try it. So there's not like I have a least favorite. Like I'll try anything. You know, I think the black licorice, I guess, would be not a food, but I don't like that. It's like, it's something about black. I'm like, seriously? Brown is okay. Red, every other cup. But the black licorice is almost like it tastes like medicine. So black licorice, I know it's not really food, but that's one of the things I think I don't like. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like, you know, even some of the crazy Asian dishes, I'm like, okay, I'll try that. And it's fine. So I don't sit there and go, oh, this is disgusting. How could you eat? I'm like, oh, good. I like this. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend who's making it though. Let's be honest. Sometimes
I had a friend who lived in China, and he maintained that he would eat anything like the Chinese. It's like, you know, if it's got more than two legs and it's not a table, it's edible. So there you go.
Yeah, I used to say that. I'm sorry, go ahead. So, but I'm
right. With the very last thing then from this very formal discussion we're having today. I'm doing this in a vain hope that we're never going to get on to the Love Fest that's called New York City, but we'll ignore that. Okay. But we're okay. It's a dinner party, and you can invite one person to that dinner party. One person that you very much, they could be living or dead or both. One person.
I've met some people that are living and dead in both at the same time. So many of our presidents.
So who would that like to be? So Mr. Vega, over to you. Or are you sleeping?
Talk about putting me on the spot.
Yeah, well, this is what we are interviewing you for, Mr. Vega, to get to find out about you.
Who would I have at the dinner table? Or just cast my mind through history. Is it someone local, someone in theater? Robin Williams.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, I would go with Robin Williams.
Yeah, can you do any Good Morning Vietnam?
No, I think he's quite. I do apologize for this. We have some attention by the door, but Robin Williams. He's both an inspirational and sad figure all the time. And when I was living in the States, that's when, he passed on, and it wasn't a good day. It was sad to hear that he was so alone. And I remember David Letterman going on his show saying, sorry that you were so alone, Robin.
Yep.
And he was the thing about Robin Williams, which people don't realize. I mean, look, it's always difficult to single out one person, but I think he embodied a lot of things that I'd like to be when I grow up. He was incredibly talented, but incredibly humble. he almost didn't know who he was, which I think we can relate to. He
Right.
was hideously funny and serious all at the same time. He was such a complicated, layered man, and he was almost, I don't know, otherworldly. And I just think, yeah, I think, can you imagine him at your dinner table for an evening? It would be insane.
I think you would
And
laugh your ass
would.
off.
But
Yeah.
he wasn't just the thing is, he was funny, but he was such an amazing thinker. There was so much that he had thought of and he was thinking about,
Yes.
which could trigger things off in your mind. And what a lot of people only realized years later is how generous he actually had been. You
Yes.
see, the problem I have with a lot of people now, big celebs, and they stand with a big check and look how much money I'm giving. I mean, he did all that and no one knew he was doing it. I heard that Jessica Chastain was sponsored by him. I don't know if that's true. He paid for her studies and she didn't know and then found out. I'm not quite sure what that story was about, but he did that for a lot of people. He would donate to homeless shelters. He would just drop stuff and leave, and things we don't even know what he did.
Yeah.
And that's what he was. He was, because charity for me is, first of all, it's supposed to be anonymous anyway. That's
Yes.
real charity. But he really did that. He walked it. And the sad thing for me about Robin Williams is I think he was far too good for us. That's what I think. I think he was, and I'm not being patronizing. I really think we didn't deserve the man. So if I could have him at my dinner table, bingo.
Okay.
There you go.
Stephen, would you, is it okay if he comes and sits on the table with you, Robin Williams? Would you, I mean, you have now your own guest as well, but
Robin Williams, I always enjoy. I liked his first HBO comedy special. I remember back in the 80s when I saw that, I was like, this guy is off the charts. I love this guy. So I'd separate mine a little. So I have on the left side, I'd have like Winston Churchill, Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun, Orson Welles, because they all fascinate me. And Alfred Hitchcock, because I've read all their books, so to speak, right? Their bios, and they all fascinate me. And I would just love to talk to them just about history and strategy and whatever. And of course, Churchill with cigars, and Scotch. But I mean, those guys fascinate me. On the other column, comics, it would be like Bob Saget, who I only heard good things about. Robin Williams, I didn't even think of, but I would put him there. Rodney Dangerfield, who I met. I would definitely put him there just because when I met him, he was pretty much what you saw, and it was just hysterical, but in a good way. And then Sam Kinison, just when he was at the peak of his career. And then, there's other people like a Jackie Mason, a Don Rickles. So like my dinner party would be like, one would be, if I drew the line, I'd be like, one day would have to be with all these historical figures because there's a lot there I want to know and unwrap. And then the other side would just be like, I would just want to sit there and have a laugh fest.
I wasn't aware we had more than one. Did you say you wanted more than one guest?
Well, he's from New York, so it's all going to be bigger and better and wider than anything else.
I could give you a list of people, definitely. I would.
Well, just
can I add some?
You can add whatever you would like. It's our show.
I'd like to add some.
We'll come back to that because I wanted to then just to flip that on its head and say, who would you not want to have next to you at a dinner party?
That's always tricky.
It's safer when they're dead, of course.
My mother-in-law.
Wow. There you go.
And let me tell you, my wife wouldn't want her there either. So that's fine. Okay. So I'm good. I'm covered.
Okay.
Apart from that, you see, that's weird because who I wouldn't there is quite personal. You wouldn't know the people.
Right.
I couldn't say, because even polarizing figures in history, I mean, even a Hitler would be really interesting. I mean, obviously we've got views on him, but apart from him, who wouldn't I have? I don't know. I don't know. I never met Genghis Khan. I don't know what he was like.
Well, you'll meet him at Steve's party.
No idea. Well, exactly.
Come to my party.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not sure if I'd really want Winston Churchill there. I know Steve wants him there. I don't know that I'd want to be there. But again, I don't know that I wouldn't want him to be there. It's tricky because
you don't know until you know.
Not having someone implies that you know a little bit of something about them personally.
Right.
So that's a hard one. Who you wouldn't want there.
Okay.
I wouldn't want anybody that's well, I wouldn't want any of the Kardashians there. That's a fact.
No, I agree with that. I'm good. We're good there.
I wouldn't have them there. I wouldn't want anybody, I think, who isn't capable of being in some way authentic. I know that sounds like a cliche, but there's so many pretentious people across media, sport, politics, whatever. And if that person walked in and smelt of that garbage, I'd say, cheers. That's it. That's it.
Okay. So you can see how
it's a kind of person, not a particular person.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
And I'd want them to call me out. See, I want people. I know this is weird and it sounds all psychologically deep, but I actually like people calling me out and vice versa. I like that. We spoke about this. Hey, it's a New Yorkerism. We're back in New York again. But I like that. I don't have time for dishonesty. And if people feel they're getting that from me, they need to tell me that too. So those are the guests I want. People that just say that and we can exchange. I mean, that's the point. You exchange ideas. I mean, Don Rickles. Can you imagine Don Rickles? Good grief. I mean, he wouldn't let you get away with anything, which is brilliant and difficult at the same time. So yeah. That's who I wouldn't want and would want.
Okay, Stephen, apart from the Kardashians, and there are other celebrities. Available, I'm told.
There's thousands. So the Hitler thing is interesting, because I know what he did. I know what he did to my people. Read some books. I read when I was in the 8th grade. I read Mein Kampf.
Yeah, my dad.
And I was like, but here's what's interesting. It's 800 and some odd pages long. The first 400 pages, if you read it and forget who wrote it, it's really how you build a country, infrastructure, roads, it's fascinating. You get to page 451 and you turn it and it goes, and then you kill the Jews. And I'm like, yeah, this is where we may have a problem with your book.
Yeah, whoa.
Right. That's right. That's where I'm like, okay, being Jewish, this book I don't like. But the first 400 is fascinating. So I want to meet, and this is terrible, I would want to meet the guy who wrote the first 400 pages, not the guy who wrote the last 400 pages of that book. So that's kind of like, would I want him there or not? That's a toughie. That's one I have to give thought. Like none of the popes,
it's weird, isn't it?
They show. Yeah.
It's tricky. It's tricky because part of me says, obviously, my dad being Jewish, same thing. I'm like, hey, not cool, buddy, not cool. But by the same token, I almost want to sit him down and go, what the hell?
What were you thinking? Yeah.
That's just just like, I don't know what I'd get out of it or what I'd change, but it may be utterly pointless, but I'd want to have a debate with him, or maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to be objective enough.
Deadpool. Remember Deadpool 2 when he can go back in time and he can kill the Hitler baby and everybody's like, he leaves it that way. It's the same type of thing. I think having like I said, the guy who wrote the first 400 pages of that book, that's the guy I'd want to speak to. That's just what made you think of this and blah, blah, and all that.
Yeah.
But like I said, the other part of why we're going to get rid of these people, my people, not so much. So like I said, so that's a toughie. Like I said, none of the popes fascinate me. I mean, it's great. I'm not Jewish, maybe that's why, but none of the popes, I'm like, oh, you were a great man. I mean, I know in 500 CE or 700 CE, at some point the popes changed it, or it was 1300 CE, I can't remember. That they were all married. All the priests and popes were married, and then one guy got up one day and go, "Nope, can't be married anymore." So to me, it's a farce. It's its own little. It's a business that is just tax exempt. So none of them mean anything to me. The Kardashians, we already said. Sorry, guys. And like I don't know. I'm not really fascinated with any of the celebrities. I just don't. I don't think they put their pants on like I do, with two gentlemen holding each leg. So I don't understand the fascination with any of them. Alfred Hitchcock, the reason I want him at the party is because he was just fascinating. Like I've seen his interviews and I've read his autobiography, and his stuff is just, the way he thought is just.
See, he's not a celebrity for me. He's bigger than that. He's
that's why I put him with Churchill and all these guys. Yeah. I
mean, the French word celeb just really means famous. Yeah. That's all you are. You just.
But he's beyond fame.
But he's
beyond fame. Exactly. Yeah, when Mel Brooks told the story about him at dinner with Winston Churchill, have you guys heard this? I'm not going to tell as good as Mel Brooks, I'm sure. So Mel, if you're listening, come on the show and tell it. But anyway, so Mel Brooks just did High Anxiety, which is his thing is homage to Psycho and whatever Hitchcock did, and all North by Northwest and all these movies. So they're at Chasen's or whatever restaurant, and he says Hitchcock orders, prawns, big 5 prawns, has a big steak, has dessert. And he's like, pulls out his cigar. He's about to light it. And then before he even cuts it and lights it, the maitre d' comes over. And his name is George. And he looks at George. He goes, George, I'm feeling a bit peckish again. And the same thing. He had the same shrimp, the same this, everything. And it was just, he did things to throw up. The book I read about him, he had a dinner party once before Weird Science, of course. And he had his whole house in blue just to see what people's reaction would be. He had another dinner party where they just invited the neighbor lady, and he said to her, just sit here and let's see if anybody asks who you are. I mean, he would do this to get a rise at it. And I'm like, I like that. That's covered. I do stuff. So he's fascinating. They're all but Kardashian's the Pope. I don't know. There's you have to really fascinate me to want to sit with you at a dinner party for more than 5 minutes. You go to a dinner party, you sit next to someone for 30 seconds. You're like, hey, it's good talking to you. And you get out. These people, I think you would spend hours, because you would be like, why did you do this? When did you do that? What was your design on this? I mean, I think there's certain, I don't know who the third one would be. That's a toughie.
What about Mel Brooks and Adolf Hitler and watching them?
Oh, chat? That would be, are you kidding? Because look,
how about that? You just sit and watch them and just
the producers. That was awesome.
Wine, yeah. Go.
Yep. Mel Brooks at a dinner party would be interesting, but I've seen his interviews and I think Mel Brooks wouldn't let me speak. It's all about Mel Brooks. And I'm like, okay, I got that. But if I can't get a question in, and I want to hear your stories, but at some point I want to talk to you about something. He wouldn't be at any of my party. I think one-on-one would be fun, but at a party, I think he would be the guy. And he's 99 years old. So we have to get him quick.
Put the two of them together. Put Adolf and Mel together and go. Go, lads.
That would be awesome. Tell us about
what you're gonna do with your lives in the world. Go. Yeah. And
get them as kids.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That would be, I don't know, be fun, but it would be, I'd pay to watch that. Definitely.
I would, if we could do it, we would do it here. Right. But no, it's just different. It's different because what you want to get out of it. I'm very, as we all know, Scotch and cigars. So to me, it's like at my dinner party, you have to have steak, because what are you going to do after you have your steak? You're going to have Scotch, you're going to have cigars. And then, and that's when the dialogue, of course you will. That's when the dialogue happens. And that's when people get interesting, because now they're full and they're having their Scotch and cigars. And it's just, that's the old school, the old world. And I like that. Like my wife will joke, we'll have a big steak or we'll go out for steak and I'll come home and I'm like, Scotch and cigar time. It's like, I always want to be left alone for my hour to hour and a half mini holiday. Let me have my Scotch and cigar and just chill, because there's no place to smoke anymore.
See, I want to say something about it, because Dave brought the whole thing of food up and then dinner guests. Right. And then you brought up steak, and I mentioned, the I wasn't happy with vegetarianism.
Right.
I've got to say this. Can you imagine a party, a vegan party with all these people? It wouldn't inspire them to talk about anything. What do you drink with vegetables?
Water.
What do you do? Because you get these incredible people there, you get them a bit woozy with a steak and Scotch and go.
Right.
I just feel that if you had a dinner party, and I'm being hideously judgmental and good, and you're sitting there with veggies and tofu and whatever, almond milk, whatever the hell, and something else that's incredibly healthy, that you're just going to focus, oh, look how healthy I am. Look how fantastically clever and brilliant I am at eating all this fantastically healthy food.
And you're still going to die.
Hideously boring. I'm so boring.
Right.
Whereas the thing for me about steak and Scotch and whatever you want, and so what if it's healthy? Yes, Steve, you're going to die one day, whatever. As Steve Jobs said before he passed away, he said, just eat the cake, eat the meat, just enjoy life. You want those people at your dinner party, people who eat those foods and then talk and go. And
Churchill and Hitchcock would be the two guys would be the guys right there with you, and they Scotch and cigar guys, and that's all day long. And it's very funny when I have to go to business meetings. Back in the day, we used to go or travel the planet. I enjoyed it because it was when I never forgot the first time I had a Cuban cigar was at a restaurant in London with clients in like the early 90s. And the guy, he brought over the dessert tray, and on the dessert cart, I should say, was the Scotch, And it was all the desserts. And on the bottom, he pulled out this box of Cubans and he said, gentlemen, what would you like? And we're all like, Scotch and cigars. And that was it. And now everyone looks at you offended when you have a cigar. I'm like, grow up. The pollution. I told this story, I think, once before. I was walking in New York City with a cigar, and and I'm respectful. I stayed kind of away from the corner, and this lady just gave me this look. And I was like, oh, yeah, bite me. As New Yorkers
You're
would
on
say.
the street. You're
Right,
on the street.
on the street. And as she's giving me this nasty look, this is back in the day when the buses weren't all clean. The bus comes by and blows enough black smoke that you can't see each other for a second. I'm thinking to myself, you're pissed off with my cigar, but this 14 buses just went by and literally killed you and your dog. Okay, I'm good with that. Like, so, and that's, I think, once again, pussification of the planet, and people just take things too far. Like,
I do.
You don't want me to smoke
offended, aren't we?
About everything.
Offended.
I remember when my dad smoked on a plane, like in the 60s and 70s. I remember like they had the smoking section and the non-smoking section, which I thought was the funniest thing. I'm like, still gonna smell it, and I was just.
You used to be able to smoke in the cinema, and but you had to sit on one side of the cinema to smoke, and the other side was non-smoking.
Yeah.
But Steve, you mentioned smoking on a plane way back in the day. I mean, remember the Twilight Zone with Rod Serling? One of the early episodes, I think that's where William Shatner
Shatner saw the monster on the wing.
Yeah, but they were smoking on the plane. Do you remember that? And they had
I do.
Curtains on the windows, and they were smoking, and you go, and they weren't offended by much, which was also interesting. They didn't get offended by everything. It's a
different world. Everybody, I heard a comedian say the other day that he went to go play at a college and he got booed off the stage because he said things that offended the college students. And then I remember an older comic had said behind that, he said, that's where we used to go to purposely offend, because that was like, that's what the college kids wanted. But we've literally made the kids today little pansies. Like, the Greatest Generation, right? They talk about World War II. I think if there was a world war, which with China and Taiwan could go that way, or if we were invaded by something outside our solar system, I don't think people are going to rally like they did in the late 30s and 40s, and even in the 50s. In the 60s, it started to decay, but I don't think there's that sense of community as a planet anymore. It is really all about, I want to be number one. I don't care about you. I'm going to step on you to get there. And I'm like, like my stepson, teaching him how to be a gentleman. Get the chair, get the door, stand up when a lady enters the room. Like he looks at me like I have three heads. And I'm like, well, on my planet we do, but here we have this one. So I'm like, dude, this is what you do. He says, but nobody does it. I go, it doesn't matter. 20 years from now, when you go on a date and you do that for the young lady or the guy, depending on what you're into, they'll be so like, oh my God. Like I literally had a girl once say to me when I held the door, she goes, I can get my own door. And I go, good, you get your own check. Amazing how all of a sudden you can get the door for them. I'm like, chivalry doesn't mean, and I think women and girls, they need to be, grow up. The gentleman or a boy or whatever wants to be a gentleman to you and get the door, do something, just shut up, accept it, learn thank you is a nice word, and let them do it. Because when they don't do it, then you all bitch and complain. But most of them can't bitch and complain because no one's ever done it for them. And I'm still very old school. I still remember, like, you go to a restaurant, you order for your date. It's not, and there's no show. It's what you do. When they get up, you stand up, you sit. All of this, it's very old school. When we go out to an Asian restaurant, I don't say a word. My wife just goes, and people from China and the rest of the world figure these goes, bing, boom, 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 done. And I'm like, what did we get? And 2 minutes later, 57 dishes come out. And it's the best, authentic food, right? It's like awesome. So, but if we go to a steakhouse, okay, I know what I can order. Like I know how to, you know what I mean? And people like guys will jump in and order before their wives or girlfriends will order. I'm like, the lady orders first. That's usually how it works.
I know.
It's things like that annoy me. Yep.
I know.
I see it. I'm too old. I'm very old school. And it's the way I was brought up by my grandparents and my parents. And it's just like, that's the way it is.
What happens when you remove manners from the world, though?
Look at it. We're in that world right now.
No manners. And you know what? If I open a door and some woman moans, that's her problem.
I'm
still opening the door.
Correct.
And so I will not change. And my son does the same. I'm with you. And he does that too. And I always said to him, if you will a date, if you open the door for your date and she moans about it, say, Off you go into the restaurant, you close the door, you wave at her goodbye, you get a cab and you go home.
Yeah.
That's what you do. A gentleman needs a lady. If
Correct.
if a woman is bothered about you opening a door for her or offering her a seat, then that's not the lady for you. You're not going to change her. That's who she is. Power to her. Boom.
That's right.
But you stay who you are. That's what I teach my son.
Yep.
And if we end up being 10 of us in the world with manners, so be it.
I'm good with that. I have no problem with that.
Okay
And
with
listen,
that.
that lady can go back to the farm. And then when, you know, the police officer sees her because she's a large lady, they'll say break up the crowd. But anyway, but I just, at the end of the day, I don't think people teach that because they don't know it anymore. Like,
no.
I don't think people understand what etiquette is. They don't understand
No.
how to do it's like, the old ways aren't so bad. I mean, being gentlemen and being nice and being whatever. And I'm just shocked at things I see when we go out and do things. I'm just like, are you kidding? Even the guys don't even know to walk on the side of where the car is. When we walked in New York City, every time we crossed the street, I'd have to switch sides. And it's like, why? And I'm like, well, I have to be on the side of where the car could come up the curb. And they were like, why? I go, so the history of that is back in the olden days, the three of us were born back in the year 2. If a horse reared, you would be on the side of where the horse is to protect the lady. So I said, when I was growing up as a kid, my grandfather said, you walk on this side, and there were no horses back then. Well, there probably were. But the whole point was that you would protect. So if a car jumps the curb, at least you can, I guess, push them out of the way or whatever. So it's still instilled to me. And I watch guys that literally know. And I mean, little things like that, in my mind, when I see somebody, older couples and the older guy with the cane or the cigars, I'm like, okay, that's old school. And I like that. There's just something about it. So,
yeah,
but I don't think we teach that anymore.
It's polite. And the problem is, I mean, this is just a theory. I can only speak about what I've seen in this country and the countries that I've lived in.
Right.
And I think there's been this push to, I guess, empower certain people, which is fine.
Right.
There are certain groups that haven't had rights, and we obviously need to, inclusivity is a good thing. That's fine.
Right.
But somehow in that process, what we've done is we've just thrown everything out. So nobody's allowed to tell anybody what to do. Nobody must control anybody. Nobody must box anybody. So we must all just be free and do whatever we want. And anybody who tells us differently is putting us in a box, and they're old school and they're fuddy-duddies, and I can open my own damn door. Thanks very much.
Right.
And it's a baby with a bathwater situation. That's what we've done. We've gotten rid of some of the, I guess, repressive legislation, which is good, but we've tossed everything out as well. And I guess maybe that's a theory. Maybe that's why we live in this world where everyone is so connected, yet actually just miles apart.
Well, there's no civil decency.
No,
and I think we spoke about the last time, like when I was a kid, I'd come home from school, throw my book bag down, and I'd go out and play until 6 or 7, then go home and have dinner. And then I would do my homework and take my bath or shower and go to bed. Now kids come home. What do? The first thing they do is get on their computer. They don't play. They don't do anything. They don't read. They like even the books. I'll say to myself, where's your books? Oh, no, everything's on the computer. Yeah, like books are better. Like you can't mark on a computer. How are you going to make notes? How are you going to do? I mean, like, I think it's just for as advanced as we're getting, I think it's less. Because you ask them questions, they don't know anything. Like literature, I said, we went through a whole bunch of books yesterday on a drive, and I didn't know anybody. I'm like, you've never read this? They've never talked to you about? No. I'm like, what do you teach these kids? Like, what are you guys learning other than how to turn on an iPad so the teacher doesn't have to do anything? And I feel for them, the teachers, because in America, especially, we treat them like crap and pay them the same. But like, let's teach the kids something. I'll be long dead when this generation's taken over, and it's steadily going to go down. So that's why the Chinese, I learn Mandarin, people. So because they are still tiger moms, they're making sure that their kids know everything. And Japan and Singapore and South Korea and whatnot.
Do you think it's a generational thing, though, Steve? Where our parents, our parents certainly weren't sitting on Zoom like we're doing today, bitching about it all. But
to a point, I do and don't. But here's the funny thing: when I would speak to my grandfather, he would tell me about his father, and you go back as far as they all taught manners. That's not a generational thing. That is like you either have your parents either teach you or you don't, right? So that's not general. The way we learn and the way we can take in, whether it's video, movies, books, blah, 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 blah. Yes, different because of all the new technology. You know, back in the day in America, we had 3 channels, right? ABC, CBS, NBC, and 1 or 2 others. Now you got 500 or 600 channels and all over the world. So I think in that respect, that's changed a little bit. But and people maybe are a little bit healthier because they read a book, you know, the vegans that, but if we don't teach people just the basics, that's an issue.
I think, Dave, the question also is, what is, maybe this is part of what you were asking, and I was hearing this as well. Is there, what makes our generational gap so different to all the other generational gaps? And I think part of it also is, if you look at population growth, it's just become logarithmic. And I think with that, you've just got, everything has just become accelerated. Everything is just, I don't know where this ends. Technology on its own is great. Social media, in theory, is good, but there's a lot of abuse of it. So, and also I think, partly to Steve's point, I mean, he teaches his kids manners. I teach my son and daughter manners. But I do think, I was once asked to write an article about just anything, what I thought problems were, and I boiled it down to parenting. People have forgotten how to be parents. They want to be their children's friends. You hear this all the time. I'm going to be my child's friend. And I said to someone once, I said, your kid doesn't need you as a friend. They need you to be more than that. They've got friends. They don't need another friend. This thing where we get all chatty with our kids and hang out with them at clubs, it's insane. It's actually quite perverse. And there should be a split. There should be your kids look up to you. But if you're a buddy, and the way kids start talking to their parents, well, then that's what happens. The manners got, I don't want to tell Johnny what to do. Of course you should tell him what to do. And of course you should discipline him. Don't beat him to a pulp, but he needs to have consequences. But the thing is, politically, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Because we've been told, we've got to tell our kids that they must just be the best they can be, and we mustn't stop them, and we can't discipline them because that breaks their spirit, and garbage similar to that. So the principle is actually good. You need boundaries, you need boxes, and you need borders. There was a guy called James Dobson. I read his book when my kids were born, Dare to Discipline, or whatever it was. And they did a study, and they found that they had these kids. They put them in a little box. They put them in a field with no boundaries. They said, kids, play. And the kids kind of huddled together. It was a big field, but they huddled together. Then they said, right, and they put a fence, or like a line or a rope, but quite a big one. And it was quite a large area. And then the kids expanded and played within that area. The point is, once they knew what their boundaries were, then they were able to push out and make the maximum use of their space. Whereas when they didn't have the boundaries, they were fearful. They kind of huddled together, and you had one idiot just going off left. It's kind of a metaphor for what's happening with the way people parent their kids now. If you don't give them a boundary, if you don't give them manners, then they've got to figure that out for themselves. And the world's not a particularly good place to figure that out. And this is basically, and rinse and repeat, and this is what we've got now. I think that's my theory on why there's been such a massive generational split. And also, countries used to be very separate. You get on the boat and you go across the Atlantic to the Americas or whatever, and there were big gaps, and it took you a while to get anywhere. Horses, things were disconnected. People were. It was a big deal to move around. Now you can be on a plane, you can be anywhere in the world in hours, and you've got this mishmash of humanity, and I mean that should be good. It's certainly good for food, but I think it's released something. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is a bad or a good thing. I don't know. It's
well, as we're all unsure as to what this has released, we'll save that for the next time that we come back.
Ooh,
and
there's a
talk to
part
you.
4. How exciting.
Oh.
Ooh.
We'll-
Well, David's
we'll-
going on holiday for 2 weeks, and we're all these shows. So in October, you can
Steve.
come back. Yeah.
I actually made some notes before we did this. I even did some prep, and I
Okay.
think we just got stuck on the first one. So
Yeah,
there's
well, there you go.
tons of stuff.
Tons of stuff.
You
to
got
talk
more.
about.
Oh, we have, David, we could one day we're just going to do a 4-hour show.
Yeah. Well, I have to keep awake that long to do it, of course, Stephen. Yeah,
I'll leave you with one
appreciate-
little tidbit.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to talk about at some point is the assumptions that people have about things they don't know about. That
Oh,
includes
that's the
countries,
next show.
Well, yeah,
countries,
it's a big show.
science, you
Yeah.
name it.
And now, of course,
Men,
everybody's
women, the
assuming.
lot.
Everybody is assuming, including myself, that we're going to
Yes.
go on to part 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7
Yes.
of this
Oh, yeah.
wonderful old farts. Let's get together regularly, talk with our favorite voiceover guy, Rob Vega. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today,
you.
Stephen. Thank you for your
Always a pleasure.
time.
Tremendous.
Yeah, I hope you've made a few shekels today. With
Wait a
your
minute.
New
I
York-
love New
with
York.
your-
Yes,
with your
no,
New
I
York
did that.
sponsorship.
New York. There you go.
There you go.
And it's goodbye from me today. If you're on the podcast, you can find the interviews we did with Rob on the podcast, and you can see all these shows and links to the podcasts on www. What's the name of the show, Steve? Too old.
Too old
Farts.
farts. .vip
.vip.
but on YouTube it's Too Old Farts Making Noises, and always remember expectations are really low.
Indeed,
So,
indeed.
cheers,
and
everybody.
on that point, we'll say goodbye. Bye bye.